another example of postmodernism. You'll notice the curvy, wavy facade down here near the water, reflecting waves. Then as you look at the sides of the building, you'll notice the mirror effect, literally reflecting the buildings around it. But you'll also notice these setbacks. Now that first setback right there, that's in reference to the height of the roof on the Wrigley building. The second setback is in reference to the height of the clock tower on the Wrigley building. And then the third setback, way up there, that's in reference to the roof of this next tall black skyscraper. Now when this building first opened in 1972, it was Mies van der Rohe's very last commission in the United States. And well, Mies van der Rohe, he's a very important figure in 20th century architecture. He's one of the founders of the Bauhaus School of Architecture in Germany back in the 1920s. He emigrated to the United States just prior to World War II, and he settled right here in Chicago where he worked at IIT. Now Mies is credited with creating this style of architecture, which is known as modern or international style. And it's characterized by lots of straight linear lines, very boxy, very plain and simple on the outside. Mies says less is more. And what's happening on the inside of the building is more important than what's happening on the outside. And that's a direct response to Beaux-Arts, which is all about making the building look beautiful on the outside. Mies says, that's not important. What's important is what's happening on the inside, and form should follow function. Now we'll see a few more examples like that as we make our way down the river. But on our right over here, in contrast, we've got Marina City Towers. Now, these are designed by a student and contemporary of Mies van der Rohe's, and his name was Bertrand Goldberg. And as you can see, he loves rounded organic shapes as opposed to straight lines and boxes. Now, these are affectionately known as the corncob towers, for obvious reasons. But when they were designed and built in the 1960s, they were meant to be a city within a city. Because at the time, a lot of people were moving out to the suburbs. So they thought that by providing everything that you might need, all in one location, would encourage people to stay and live in the city. So there's a marina, shops, restaurants, a hotel. They even built a movie theater. And as we come out underneath this bridge here, take a look over your shoulder, and you're going to see tucked in between these buildings, this curvy, rounded building, which is today the House of Blues. That was originally the movie theater that was constructed for that entire complex. Now right next to it here, we've got the Westin Hotel. And that was originally designed for a Japanese hotel chain. Now they no longer run the hotel, but it still maintains its modern Japanese aesthetic. In fact, you'll notice that there's a garden up there in between those two buildings. It's actually an ornamental Japanese garden for guests and the public to enjoy. Now as you come out from underneath the bridge here, we're going to see our first example of what is known as adaptive reuse. And that's just a fancy way of saying we're going to recycle a building. So this is currently the home to the Encyclopedia Britannica company, but it was originally designed as a warehouse. And it's done in a prairie style, which means that it's low, horizontal, and symmetrical. And if you'll notice, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bays of windows to the right of the clock tower. And then that symmetry continues with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5. Okay, so it's no longer symmetrical. It used to be symmetrical, but in 1927 they were widening the South Street and they needed room for that bridge tower. So they actually had to cut out and remove a 20-foot section of that building, get rid of it, slap the end of the building back on so it could remain closed and appear symmetrical, and that way they were able to keep the building and widen the South Street. Now in front of us on either side of the boat, you'll notice that there are barges with construction equipment on them, and that's because we are currently in the process of replacing the Wells Street Bridge. Now, this is the first of 2 bridges crossing the river carrying the L. This is the brown and the purple line that we're about to pass underneath. And, well, about 6 months ago, we had a blizzard here in Chicago. And during this blizzard, the bridge was scheduled to be closed to all traffic so they could replace the section we're passing under right now, which was over 90 years old. And they worked 24 hours a day through that blizzard to replace that section of bridge. Now, this is all expected to be completed later this fall. Now, on our right over here, this is the Merchandise Mart. And this was designed and built for the Marshall Fields Company to consolidate their various warehouses from around the city, all into one big building. In fact, when this first opened, it was the world's largest building by volume. And the next building to eclipse it in size is the Pentagon, which you'll notice along the base of the building lots of repeating geometric shapes, as well as the thick lines of the piers in between the windows, which draw your eyes up towards the top of the building, where there are turrets in the corners and setbacks. Now, those are all hallmarks of Art Deco design. But you may have noticed those busts right along the river's edge. Now, those were famously called the Pez Head Hall of Fame by David Letterman. And much to my